Welcome to MGB Hotel at 210, Venda's premier destination for luxury, comfort, and unforgettable moments. Nestled in the heart of Sibasa at 1446 Mpepu Street, our hotel offers the perfect escape for honeymooners, couples, business travelers, and a guest seeking elegance with a view. Relax in the beautiful design rooms. Wake up to sophistication as the sun sets. Enjoy a drink at our exclusive rooftop bar and restaurant, where the city lights of Thohoyandou paints a stunning night skyline. Planning a conference, celebration, or a romantic getaway? Let MGB Hotel at 210 be your backdrop for memories that matter. Modern luxury, unmatched service, a view you will never forget. Book your stay today at bookings.com or call us on 015-963-4500. MGB Hotel at 210. Live the MGB experience.
Welcome to another episode of Red Dice Pictures. Today we are broadcasting live from MGB Hotels at 210, Thohoyandou, South Africa. Please, with me today are my guests, actually great men of God, and from the Bahamas and from USA, Mr. Charles Gordon, and I nearly said Brother Dave, but Dr. Dave Burrows. How are you, sir?
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Charlie, are you okay?
Great.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
And then I was just actually talking to Pastor Masara at some point, or Bomasara, to say, please don't let these men go before we speak, because there's so much that is invested in them that I want to actually understand. And tell me, what brings you to South Africa this time?
We're both here for the Global Kingdom Leadership Summit and Tour.
Right.
So that's being held in Pretoria.
Wow.
And this is my fourth year.
In South Africa?
No, not fourth. I've been in South Africa many other times, but this is my fourth year at the summit.
At the summit.
Yes.
Charles?
This is my third year at the summit.
So he's 1 year ahead of you.
1 year ahead of me.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And how is it going? Is it okay? Is it fine?
It was great.
Yeah.
It's completed, but it was an excellent conference. Great speakers. Really focus on a lot of leadership issues.
Yes.
I thought it was excellent.
That's great. And you chose to come far north, down here in Thohoyandou. It's so nice. You know, we hardly find people from the Bahamas coming down here, and to find you, Charlie, as well, coming here to Thohoyandou, it's a blessing. We really feel honored. And then maybe if I can start with you, Mr. Burrows, what was the leadership all about, and what is it that you're aiming this year, 2025?
In terms of myself personally?
Personally, and the conference as well.
Conference?
Yeah.
Well, the focus this year was on succession, mentoring, leadership mentoring and succession.
Yeah.
And I believe it's one of the areas that is essential in the world today, and sometimes is often forgotten.
Yeah.
What we find is that, according to statistics, most corporations, organizations, and churches do not have a succession plan.
Yeah.
So many times companies and churches and organizations fall apart, or they end up in limbo.
Yeah.
So there's no succession plan, and so the people who are left behind do not have a blueprint.
Yeah.
And so they fight over who's going to be the leader.
Yeah.
And it often delays or derails the progress of these organizations. So it's very important to implement or to have preparation for a succession plan. And a lot of it, for me, revolved around a book that I recently wrote.
Okay.
The book was called Following a Legend. And as you know, I succeeded Dr. Miles Monroe.
That's what I wanted to come. And yeah.
Yeah. And so that was a lot of revelation for me.
Yeah.
There were some lessons that I learned. So the reason I wrote the book was to give lessons to others who are coming behind.
Yeah.
So I had an experience. Fortunately, my experience went very well, but many others, their experiences didn't go well. So what I'm providing are some critical lessons that I learned to help others.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when I'm going to come to you, Charlie, not so long. Just want to actually find out from Mr. Burrows that, Dr. Burrows, tell me about your journey with Dr. Miles. When did you start? Was it easy? And what kind of leadership did you learn from Dr. Miles?
It's quite interesting because Dr. Monroe and I grew up on the same island, and we actually crossed paths without me knowing who he was. So I was in the world, I was on the streets.
Yeah.
And he was a church guy.
Yeah.
My sister and he were partners in ministry.
Yeah.
But I had never seen him, never met him. Fast forward a few years, I had been through some situations. I ended up in college. And while in college, I met him. I'd never seen him in my life. I didn't know what he looked like. But he came to me and he said, "You are Marlon's brother." I said, yes. He said, "Well, I'm Miles Monroe."
Yeah.
And that was my introduction. We got to know each other. He became a mentor for me.
Yeah.
And that began a journey of us together for over 40 years. So basically, in college, he served as a mentor to me because when I came to college, I was still on the streets. I was, still messed up. And he was critical in helping me evolve into a solid Christian family man and so on.
Yeah.
So he was my mentor. When he returned to the Bahamas, after both of us had completed college, he went to another college.
Yeah.
He invited me to be a part of the launching of a ministry called Bahamas Faith Ministries.
Yeah.
So I was there at the beginning of the ministry.
Yeah.
And I was the first youth pastor. I traveled with him. I was the vice president of Miles Monroe International. So we spent years together. We spent in each other's homes. Many times when we would travel, he would give me opportunities to speak at major events that he was speaking at. So he's speaking to a conference center full of people, and he would say, "Okay, Dave, come and speak for 10 minutes."
What was your first like? What was your first time like when you were invited to speak?
I
can imagine the stage full of people, and boom, you called to the stage. Come speak to the people.
I was nervous, of course, but it was a great experience because it exposed me to a lot that I hadn't been exposed to before. It got a lot of people to be introduced to me, and it also gave me some tools to become a better public speaker and to be involved in ministry and get a taste of what ministry on a major scale was like.
Yeah. Charlie, I would like to make you jump in because we're still gonna have to focus more on Dr. Burrows. On your side, you're from One Mission. What do you guys mostly focus on?
For M1 Mission?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Restoring the world with the love of God through one man, Jesus,
Yeah.
one message of the kingdom,
Yeah.
and one mission to multiply.
Are you fully focused on the USA, or are you also traveling other countries as well?
No, I am traveling other countries. That's primarily what brought me here with Charlie Masala,
Yes.
Ambassador Charlie.
Yeah.
And I've also been to Uganda.
Yeah.
Went to Rwanda as well.
So you know that US-based institution, you are a global mission institution.
It's very much becoming that.
Yeah.
Yes. You can't restore the world without
Yes.
being bound to one place.
That sounds very great. And you're also part of the conference, which he's also part of, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So coming back to you, Dr. Burrows, you mentioned something about I wouldn't say inheritance, but you spoke about leadership, which has to actually prepare other people who will be taking over after today's leaders have passed on. We've got a problem. In mostly churches, we don't know who's gonna be the I don't know which word to use, the successor after maybe I passed on, because obviously that's the way for everybody, for anyone else. A lot of churches are battling with that. Right. And we end up having fights within the church, and then people, they get derailed from faith. Yeah, that's where you start finding people even going physical, and which is not good. It tarnishes and destroys the image and the body of Christ itself.
You are correct, which is why I'm a firm believer in developing succession plans. So every organization, not just churches, businesses, because according to statistics that I read, less than 20% of businesses have a succession plan.
Yeah.
So when the founder dies, the business flounders or, falters.
Yeah.
So basically what needs to happen is, if you have a vision for a business, if you have a vision for a church,
Yeah.
that vision has to be written down. It has to be plain.
Yeah.
And there has to be a path and a succession plan for what happens after the visionary is no longer there. Because if you don't have that succession plan, you are setting yourself up for failure.
I agree.
One of the good things about Bahamas Faith Ministries is that Dr. Monroe is very keen on passing it on, and in terms of creating successors.
Yeah.
Now, there are different theories when it comes to succession. Some people feel like you have to have one successor. Others feel like you have to have a group of successors.
Yeah.
If you look at the model of Jesus,
Yeah.
Jesus did not have one successor. He had a group.
Yeah.
In our case, we had a group of persons,
Yeah.
a small group of persons who were all capable. Fortunately for Bahamas Faith Ministries, there were 4 of us who started together,
Yeah.
and 2 perished in the plane crash. So there were 2 of us left.
Yeah.
And with me having experience being a senior pastor in Bahamas Faith Ministries, or one of the senior pastors in Bahamas Faith Ministries, also being the vice president of Miles Monroe, I was very familiar. I was already trained. I was already prepared.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a difficult process or transition. Of course, there were challenges, but that preparation and that understanding of the continuity of vision
Yeah.
was essential in our success.
Somebody's asking themselves a question right now as we sit, watching us from wherever they might be watching us from. Somebody's having this question to say, but how does where do we start? We are not in the Bahamas. You are not here with us all the time. But what is the first step to do? What do we need to do? We've got a church, we've got a structure, we've got a business. Some businesses are just sole trades, whereby a man or a woman runs his own business. Oh, they've got a church which they haven't actually thought. They're still training people who should become successors. And where do we start?
Well, I think one good thing in our example,
Yeah.
as I mentioned with Dr. Miles Monroe, he mentored me.
Yep.
And he put me in a position to succeed.
Right.
What happens in many organizations is that the leader holds on to power and employs people.
Yeah.
So when you employ people, it means you put them under obligation.
Yeah.
Dr. Monroe, on the other hand, had a philosophy of deploying people.
Yeah.
So whatever your gift is, whatever your skill set is, he allowed you to flourish in that. And
Yeah.
that's very important.
Yeah.
Sometimes leaders try to protect their position.
True.
And when you protect your position, it means that people who can succeed you are cut off.
Yeah.
And they feel unwanted. They feel like, well,
neglected.
right.
Yeah.
I will never make it here because I'm in the prime of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm stifled.
Yes.
So it's very important to give people opportunities. The example that I mentioned with him taking me on the road with him and giving me an opportunity to speak to the same people that he spoke to, it means that there was no sense of being threatened.
Yeah.
There was no sense of having to keep me down to elevate himself.
Yeah.
So he allowed people around him to flourish. I'll tell you a story. After the crash at the leadership conference in Freeport, there was a lady. She was from Africa. I don't remember what her name was or anything, but she came to my table during the conference, and she was looking at the materials that I wrote. At that time, I had written about 15 books, and she looked at me and she said, this is interesting. She said, in all my travels, I have never seen a youth pastor with this level of authorship and production of materials. And she said, it's interesting that Dr. Monroe covered you but he did not smother you.
Yeah.
And that was an eye-opener for me. And I realized that what he did was he allowed others to develop and flourish.
Yeah.
So that when the time came, you didn't have to find people. Because if you stifle people, they're gone.
Yeah.
And when it's time for succession, you have to find people.
And it's a process.
Right.
It's a process, and it can actually destabilize a lot of things.
Yes.
It can actually put the structure or the institution up and upside down, because by that time you're losing focus on what you're supposed to do. You're looking around for somebody who's going to come and fill in the gap.
Right.
Instead of, you could have just done it long ago and do some preps so that when it happens, they just fit in. Charlie, any input which you...
I was thinking as he's speaking about this, specifically Jesus, for example, from the beginning knew I must go away.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we start.
Yeah.
Knowing that if your vision is to outlive you, you have to acknowledge first, I must go away. So you have to let all of those barriers of insecurities.
Yes.
And I was in the U.S. Coast Guard for 26 years.
Wow.
And so we knew we were temporary. We knew that we are here for the mission, that you focus on the mission. And our whole job was to prepare people to replace us.
Yeah.
So just echoing what he was saying, I had the honor of being in command of 2 different units in the Coast Guard, of being in command. And you just had to know immediately that any power given to you is to empower the people below you.
Yes.
So, and you accomplish more that way.
And I think we should also have peace with the fact that we're not going to stay here forever.
Absolutely.
And that should actually prep us to know that somebody has to take over.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
we should not have that jealousy mentality of saying it should not go away from me. It should be my son because I am the leader now.
Right.
Absolutely.
That is where the problem is, because if it goes like that, now it's no longer for the people with a good purpose. It becomes part of dictatorship.
Yes. And you know, what was another interesting point in my journey is that very early on as a ministry, Dr. Monroe said something that was so powerful, and it became a mantra of Bahamas Faith Ministries. And his personal mantra, he said, we exist to transform followers into leaders.
Yeah.
And leaders into agents of change.
Wow.
So when you start out with your core philosophy of transforming followers into leaders, it means that you are producing people who are capable of carrying on the vision.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an essential component of our success, transforming followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change.
Do you perhaps maybe have any material that one could actually stream online, which you've been preparing? Because I know some people might not come to the Bahamas and attend some of your conferences and all that, but is there anything that one could actually search for?
Yes. Well, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all of the mediums, and all of my books are available on Amazon as both ebooks and print books.
Yeah.
So persons can access the YouTube channel, they can access Amazon. Just look up my name and everything will be available.
Dave Burrows.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. Guys, we're trying to unpack what leadership is all about, because there are so many people who are actually struggling with letting go of certain things to other people. There are a lot of leaders who just can't. If you look at the African continent in general, I agree that I also believe that other people who are living in diaspora are also witnessing that, which I'm just about to say, that there are so many leaders in Africa who doesn't want to let go of power.
Yes.
For some reasons, I don't know why. And that is one thing that is making the continent stagnant, not moving forward, becoming under-resourced, while we're sitting on top of multi-zillion minerals, which can be utilized for trading. And we change the society and people with lives that are, in the continent as well.
Absolutely.
Africa is not struggling, but I think leadership that is recently in Africa, it's struggling to let go of certain power, to transfer power to rightful people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's critical to have a mindset
Yeah.
at the beginning
Yes.
of developing others
Yeah.
as opposed to developing yourself at the expense of others.
Yeah.
So that has to be intentional, because if it's not intentional, then it becomes kind of a self-preservation scenario
Yeah.
where you are thinking that by cutting other people off, you are preserving yourself.
Yeah.
When in reality, what you are doing is you are creating enemies who are seeking to destroy you, as opposed to persons who will support you because you have supported them and because you have given them an opportunity to excel. I forgot one video that I would recommend for persons who want to know about the journey, and it's also on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. It's called My Journey with Miles Monroe.
Wow.
So if you can find that on YouTube.
They're already on YouTube as we're talking.
Yes.
You're just saying somebody is scrolling down to your channel.
Yes.
Speaking about that, okay, you said something about creating enemies because you don't want to do the right thing. I strongly feel that if a leader cannot see or foresee the future, like I said about Africa, leadership somehow it's questionable. You end up finding people revolting, not because they want to revolt against the leadership, but because they are tired of the system that is at hand, which is not either benefiting them, but enslaving them further. And it's like you're being suffocated with a plastic in your head. You want to breathe, you've got all the abilities, but somebody keeps strangling you because they don't want you there. You don't have to be close by. We see you, we feel you. You are here, Charles, but we just don't want you there. You can kick, scream. We love it that way, but hold on, Charles. Wait a minute. Stay there. That is what is happening. That is why you find, I was watching a YouTube channel last week, Kenyan's youth revolted to the street because of the type of leadership they do not like. And I remember one teaching of Dr. Miles Monroe when he was speaking about leadership with a character. If you've got a character in leadership, you're going to rule right, and you're going to actually lead people not astray. Right. You're going to be a leader who thinks not for himself. You're going to be a leader who does not actually want everything gold mine, uranium mine, platinum mine, and my wife, but for the people and everybody else. And it also comes back to one mission. You going around evangelizing, introducing Christ to people. You're also doing so that somebody after you've moved on should continue with it. Look at the legacy of Reinhard Bonnke. I read a lot of them. Miles Monroe, Jimmy Swaggart.
Yes.
There are a lot of them. People are still running with it. You wouldn't be here if Miles and others would have been not here.
Absolutely.
They paved the way for you. And I think that is where leadership should actually focus more. Train, equip, release. That's it.
Yeah, you know, the Bible says something. The Bible says that the people rejoice when the righteous are in power.
Yeah.
So if you are a good leader, people should rejoice.
Yeah.
If people are angry, if people are oppressed, it means you're not a good leader.
Yeah.
And as a leader, you have to examine yourself. Are people around you becoming better? Are you creating value? If you're not creating value, you're not a good leader.
Yeah.
If you are successful in accumulating wealth for yourself, if you are successful in accumulating a name, but people are not being developed.
Yeah.
If people are not thriving, then you're not successful. And it's very important, I believe, to focus in on transforming others and helping others to thrive in their area of gifting.
I'll tell you a story. Very long story, but to cut it short, there was a gangster at some point in a certain area in Cape Town, in Western Cape. That gangster he was not a gangster. He became a gangster. He's from one of the places where poverty was, it was a daily bread. Poverty was a usual thing. But these boys sat down and they thought what they thought, and they started robbing people, robbing banks, robbing businesses. What they did, though their leadership was not centered around a good example, what they did, 10% of what they robbed, they gave to the people. If they do a cash and transit heist, they would go back to the very same area in that ghetto and drill boreholes and build schools. So it was crime, but it was better than a church.
Like Robin Hood.
It was better than a church. It was better than a government, a local government. Government was busy squandering money and stealing from the people's purse. But criminals were now taking law into their own hands just for the sake of development to come. We don't want such examples. I think we can do better, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can do better.
And if you invest in people
Yeah.
and you mentor people, great things can happen. Because my story is a similar story.
Yeah.
At 13 years old, I was a gangster.
Wow.
And actually I had an interesting introduction to Miles Monroe. So I had heard about Miles Monroe, never saw him.
Yeah.
But I was in college.
Yeah.
And I was actually facing 3 years in prison for burglary and handgun possession.
Yeah.
And when I was back in the Bahamas, there was a song that used to play on the radio called Brand New World.
Yeah.
I didn't know who wrote it. I just remembered the song.
Yeah. The lyrics.
Yeah. And so while the sheriff and the authorities were searching for me,
Yeah.
I asked my mother to
Were you one of those hardcore gangsters?
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to imagine.
Actually, I wrote a book about it.
Wow.
He has pictures.
Yeah, I have some pictures too. But I actually asked my mother to send me the song.
Yeah.
And I played the song, not knowing that it was Miles Monroe.
Wow.
But I just remembered this brand new world.
Yeah.
And I was saying to myself, I need a brand new world.
Yeah.
And didn't realize that a year and a half later, I would be running into Dr. Miles Monroe and we would become connected for life. You know?
Wow.
So
I'm trying to imagine him being a gangster.
Yeah.
He used to carry handguns. Like, yo, what's up, man?
Seeing the pictures on his
like,
book.
what's up, man?
Yeah.
What's going on, doc?
I was in the pharmaceutical industry at the age of 13.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah. No, I was on the street corner.
Yeah.
I was on the street corner.
Wow.
I was involved in several police chases.
Yeah.
Gunshots. There was a time when I had beaten a guy in his face with a.
You don't look like a man who can beat somebody. Am I lying, Charles? He doesn't look like a man who can punch a man on the face.
No, but I've seen the pictures. I'm not going to test him.
And so the guy came back with a shotgun and a dog.
Shotgun?
Yeah.
Wow.
And ran me through the bushes.
Yeah.
So I was able to escape by running into someone's house.
You lucky because you ran into the bushes.
Yeah.
With a shotgun, 112 gauge round will, it can destabilize you.
Yeah.
Can open a very huge hole at the back.
Yeah. I've also been in another situation. I was in another situation where a gunshot was firing at me, but I didn't realize it was a gunshot. I thought it was a firecracker.
Yeah. Wow.
I saw the fire from the gun.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize until the guys who were next to me started jumping over the wall that the bullets were coming at us.
So the target was left in public.
Yeah. So basically, the bullets hit the wall. All of us jumped over the wall.
Wow.
But 6 people got shot that night.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
But look, here you are today.
Yeah.
You're the leader of a very big church.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And somebody is watching this, or maybe they've watched several videos of yours, and they're like, things can change. Things can happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not where you are born. It's what's born in you.
Yeah.
You could be born anywhere.
Yeah.
But what's important is what's born in you.
What can we expect from you from now? From now on, are you writing more books? Are you acting? Are you going to be dropping a movie soon?
Well, I've actually already produced 5 movies,
Wow.
three music soundtracks.
Yeah.
I've written 22 books, and I'm working on my 23 and 24 this year.
Charles, from your side?
There was something I keep thinking of as I'm listening to Dr. Dave.
Yeah.
It's always an honor, privilege to hear and to see something that Dr. Monroe used to share with us everywhere. Mm-hmm. He would have us all join hands, and he would say, look at your neighbor and tell them it's so good to touch an original.
Yeah.
Not one person has the same fingerprint.
Yeah.
And then he would tell them, if you knew who I really was, you would take me out for lunch. And, of course, everybody would laugh. Yeah. And as I listened to like this testimony and I'm reminded of it, like who would have thought, you could have walked past, but the very person that would succeed him was one that most people would just walk past. And we're probably all guilty of that at times. Yeah. But it's just a reminder of what you don't see and what's inside of somebody, what they have the potential of becoming.
Definitely.
It's encouraging even to me because that's actually what attracted me to Dr. Monroe. Was one, just chasing the kingdom, and this kingdom message. But when I was able to meet him, he demonstrated that. To me, a man who could sit next to a king one day or a president one day, and then the next day he's sitting next to me and speaking to me.
Talking of that, in South African Parliament today, we've got different political parties: EFF, DA, ANC, blah blah blah, and others. Mm-hmm. There are times whereby when the debates are heating, you find others pointing to say, "You are an ex-convict. You've been murdering people," and they forget that yes, it was the past. But this is now. I was, but I'm no longer. I'm here today.
That's right.
Both of them are in Parliament. And
that's right.
I don't know if there isn't somebody who sits down with them and say, but guys, all of you were someone.
Yeah.
He's an ex-convict, but ex-convict. But today he's a parliament member. So sometimes we need to sit down and question ourselves to say, it looks like, and it seems like, that God prepares us from different spheres of life.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And everybody has a history, and even a prostitute.
Well, life is very thin.
Yeah.
The Apostle Paul put it this way. He said, "But for the grace of God, there go I."
Yeah.
And before we get too sanctimonious, we can realize that one mistake.
Yeah,
that's right.
One mistake could have changed your trajectory in life. So you make one mistake, one temporary glitch, and you become a convicted criminal.
Yeah.
And it could happen to anybody.
To anyone.
And sometimes, it can be an innocent mistake.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be intentional, but life is very fragile.
It is.
And you have to respect people for where they are, not where they've been.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point because even in the US, when you see like the majority of the political world is about attacking the other person's character or their past. Yeah. And I was reminded when you said that Abraham Lincoln came out of an insane asylum. When you think of where people could come from and what they have to offer, what if they brought that up, to keep him from office?
Right.
Dr. Burrows, you will agree with me. If you are to go down to all scriptures which speaks about Jesus and his character. When I sit down sometimes, I feel like Jesus was more like a gangster at some point when he approaches the temple. He had a gangster attitude because if you would say, he would have said to the people, "Oh no, just clean your tables, man. I don't want people in front of my father's temple." It was not gonna work, man. He had to really be bold and raise the voice and said, I'm telling you, get out of the American accent. Get out of there. Get out of there. So the gangster mentality, I'm not saying Jesus was a gangster.
Right.
I'm just saying at some point, for certain points to be stressed clearly, you gotta have to develop a certain level of skin. Yeah. Because if you speak nice guys don't succeed at some point.
I think you can use the word revolutionary.
Oh yeah.
That's probably a more appropriate word. But all of us have a purpose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when we are ignorant of purpose, there are two ways to live in life.
Yeah.
You can live by instinct or you can live by purpose.
Right.
If you live by instinct, you never know where it's going to take you.
Right.
If you live by purpose, it means it's by design.
Yes.
When I was growing up as a young person, I lived by instinct. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. So I ended up in places I was not supposed to be.
Yeah.
I was not supposed to be on the corner with packages.
I get you.
As a pharmacist. As a pharmacist. But God had a plan for me, but because I was living on instinct, I was just following what I felt. Whereas when I discovered my purpose, I followed a design. Yeah. And the design took me to my destiny.
I want you to talk to a young man in the street. He's watching this. I want you to talk to a young girl who is actually watching this right now. He's also on the street. He's even planning to go to become a pharmacist. Mm-hmm. He's seeing a cash in transit car every day, planning, having a pen and a paper, checking times, drop-off times and everything. They are yours. Please talk to them.
Well, I think the lesson that I learned in life is that you can choose bitter or better. And the Bible says this. The Bible says that there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end is destruction. Yeah. And, I actually worked with, over the years, I worked with gang members. I've helped thousands of gang members to transform their lives. I actually have consulted for countries in turning situations around with gang members. So I've spent a lot of time doing it. And one of the things that I realized is that young men have to discover their purpose. Mm-hmm. And you also have to discover what I said earlier about the difference between living on instinct and living on purpose. Yeah. When you live on instinct, you do what feels good. So, it may feel good to have a lot of money. It may feel good to have recognition, but at the end, there's no positive outcome. Yeah. Whereas if you live by purpose, then wherever you start, you have an opportunity to be great in your field, on your level. Mm. Everybody will not achieve the same level, but we all have the opportunity to be great. And I actually, there's a book that I wrote. There's a book on my life story. It's called The Power of Positive Choices. I'll show you the cover of the book. Right. And then I also wrote another book called Reaching the Streets. And it's critical information on how to reach young men who are from the streets, because it's something that I've done. I've been there. Yeah, I've intervened in gang wars. I've negotiated with gang leaders. I've helped young gang members transform their lives. So there's several young gang members who I work with, who were on the streets, who were robbing people, who were doing all kinds of things. And today they are husbands, they're fathers, they're business people. One of them is an international recording artist, has a television program in 25 countries, a radio program in 90 countries. Yeah. He never finished high school. Wow. And he was written off. When he was a teenager, all of his belongings were in one bag.
Yeah, one bag.
And then within about 3 years, he was earning $30,000 a month from owning several car washes. And he started out with nothing.
Talking of the dollars, I was actually watching a TV last night. They were saying in the UK, they said they're looking for soldiers from Africa. They mentioned the Bahamas. They said, if you're from the Bahamas, you can come join.
The UK.
In the UK, for them to fight for the British Army. Mm. And then the comments were wild. I just couldn't want to read furthermore. But anyway, I know you've got a lot of schedules lined up for you. You're still going back to Pretoria.
Yes.
You guys are preaching tonight. One of you is preaching tonight. And I know for a fact that on my Lower Thursday, there is your handles, YouTube channels and everything else. So, but I would also want to give Charles a few words to speak. Is there anything that you want to tell us more about One Mission before we close?
Where purpose is not known, abuse. I would even say where purpose is not known or ignored, abuse is inevitable, abnormal use. Yeah. We focus on leadership development in the same vision. Right. And just following Dr. Dave. Yes. The purpose drives us to conviction. Yes. And all of that should be driven to why we exist and what we do. But if we don't understand that God's original idea was heaven on earth, then it doesn't matter what we do, your purpose cannot be fulfilled. So everything that the young man that you were speaking to that may be wondering what to do, you have to understand God wants heaven on earth.
I agree with you.
At the end of the day, that's what he wants. So you have to find what it is he's calling you to do to right that wrong that would cause you to flip the table like Jesus did. Because there's brokenness in the world. Everywhere we look, there's brokenness. So when you discover your purpose, you'll understand God's original idea for you to exist.
Dr. Dave, any last words to our people?
I agree with Charles. The key is finding your purpose.
Yeah.
And, for me, I discovered my purpose when I realized that I'm not just an accident or an incident.
Yeah.
God designed me. And the Bible says he knows the plans that he has for me, good plans. So I think we have to discover what God really planned for us and what his destiny is for us and walk in it. And when we walk in that, we'll find fulfillment in life.
Dr. Dave Burrows from Bahamas Faith Ministries, thank you so much. We appreciate you for being part of us today. We feel honored and blessed. We don't have enough words to express how we're feeling. And please, let it be not the last time for you to come this side. Not only for conferences and seminars. Come, man. We've got a lot of people who need you down here.
Yes.
Just come spend a week. Talk to Masara as well,
Yes.
Charles, and then to arrange something for us here because we need you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Charles, thank you so much. We appreciate you so much. And then if you see me at the US, don't be surprised. I might be coming to join Trump's new administration very soon. And I'm not sure when. But maybe I'm going to take Elon Musk position, and don't be surprised. It happens. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a wonderful moment. May God bless you wherever you are. Stay put and keep watching Red Dice. We out.